And let the record reflect, we've reconvened with all members present. Bob Landergan is absent excused. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment for a moment of silence to remember Eleonora Mama Coviello, who passed away on Tuesday, July 13th. She was born on December 17, 1935, to Fortunata and Carmine Spagnuolo in Italy. She was the second of 6 children. Eleonora immigrated to the United States in 1958, where she made her home with her husband, Michelle, and their 3 children. She is survived by her husband of 66 years and her 3 children, Rosaria, former council member Nino, Rita, their spouses, 8 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. She is also survived by her sisters, Louisa, Mary Antoinette, and her brother, Pasquale. Eleonora was a true example of determination and perseverance in various levels. Most significantly was raising 3 children in her new country while adapting to other things, its customs and cultures. Religion was an important factor in her life. She could always be found in her seat, attending Mass daily at St. Vincent's Martyr. She was also known for her culinary skills, particularly her Thursday homemade sauce, pasta, meatballs, and bread. Eleonora was best known as Mama to all, a woman with an incredible altruistic heart who was not only a mother to her 3 children, but also to all those that had pleasure of knowing her. Let us take a moment to remember Eleonora Coviello, and let's pass our thoughts on to the families and friends that she has left behind. Thank you. May I have a motion for the executive minutes of July 12th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and a motion for the regular minutes of July 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, welcome all to another hot, humid July day. This past Wednesday, I attended the ribbon cutting for the new YMCA edition. Councilwoman Austria Bailey was also there in her dual role as a Y board member. The addition included an 8-lane pool and double gym. It's certainly a very impressive expansion. It was an honor to be part of the design of that. And please stop by and take a look at it. Just a reminder that we will be meeting virtually on August 9th, and which will be our only meeting for August. And we plan to launch a hybrid meeting model with our September 13th meeting. Of course, with the current Delta variant and other things with COVID, things could change. And this serves as a reminder, if you haven't gotten your vaccine, please do so. It's for yourself and others. And this just in, we have a addition to a second employee of the month that we're adding today. And this is a special recognition, one that we wanted to add on. And this is Ray Cody, our borough administrator. He has often performed well beyond his essential job function, but in particular working countless hours to settle affordable housing litigation on behalf of the borough. Not only did he work tirelessly for a fair settlement, but he also saved the borough thousands in legal fees with his experience with affordable housing and legal expertise. Certainly invaluable in the process of reaching an agreement, and as I said, saving us an incredible amount of money. So Ray Cody, congratulations on Employee of the Month. And now we'll move on to reports from committees. Public Safety, Council President Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. From the fire department, 2 of our volunteer firefighters will be starting their Firefighter 1 training on August 10th. The classes are every Tuesday evening and all day Saturdays until completion December 4th. Also, 2 other volunteer fighters will be starting their firefighter 2 training on August 2nd. Those classes are every Monday and Wednesday, concluding on November 22nd. Troy Pahowick started his career on Tuesday, July 13th with the fire department. He is going through training on the apparatus and getting more proficient each day. We hope to have him ready to go in a few more weeks. The 2020 AFG grant awards have started to be handed out. The fire department submitted a joint grant application with the Madison Volunteer Ambulance Corps for radio equipment. We are waiting to hear if we will be awarded any grant money. A new volunteer firefighter is on the agenda for tonight's meeting to be appointed, and one of the volunteer firefighters submitted his resignation from the fire department effective July 12th, 2021. From the police department. On July 20th, officers from the Madison Police Department Command Staff and Community Relations Unit attended training titled Police and the Community, Building the Bridges Through Summer and Beyond. This training covered using clergy to build public confidence of police and improving community messaging for law enforcement. A new section was created under our Madison Police Department webpage following department-wide training on autism awareness. The web page titled Autism Services allows residents to provide information on family members who have developmental disabilities, which will provide first responders valuable information upon responding to calls for services at those addresses. For information, please visit www.rosenet.org/1384/autism services. On July 24th, 2021, this past Saturday, members of the Madison Police Department Community Relations Unit teamed up with members of the Madison Baptist Church and their food pantry to hand out meals to over 200 guests. These meals were purchased by Soup Kitchen 411 and prepared by Local Food. And finally, Tuesday night is National Night Out. Police Department will be fanning out throughout Madison communities, interacting with neighbors, and that's it.
Thank you very much. And now we on to Finance Borough Clerk, Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to discuss the Senior Freeze Program. The state has a program that helps eligible seniors with their property taxes. The Senior Freeze Program effectively freezes the property tax bill of a senior. So as an example, if the residents that were accepted into the program in 2015 receive a check from the state, which covers the difference between their 2015 property taxes and their 2020 property taxes. So last week, the state started mailing checks to residents who are in the program. Please contact the tax collector's office if you have questions or need any additional information. And then from the tax collector's office, the county was delayed in certifying our tax rate. And as a result, our property tax bills were delayed. The tax collector's office will be printing up and mailing out the property tax bills this Friday. Those bills will have a payment deadline of August 1st, but note, there is a grace period with no interest and penalties if the payment is received by Tuesday, August 24th. It needs to be received, not just posted. There will be a special insert in the bill explaining this. Alternatively, there are a couple of options for property owners who may be out of town during the next few weeks and who want to avoid penalties and interest because of the short turnaround time. You can visit rosenet.org to pay your property tax bill online. The third quarter property tax amounts will you just need your checking account and routing number in order to do that. Second, you can mail in a check now for an estimated amount based on your last quarterly property tax bill. And again, contact the tax collector's office if you have any questions. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And now Public Works and Engineering and also Health for Bob Lannergan, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Engineering Department, for Hartley Dodge Memorial Plaza, Marilyn Garaguso began work on June 7th and have removed the upper and lower stair foundations. Half the demolished concrete was able to be combined with imported fill beneath the stairs. The cost increase for flowable fill was offset in part by reduced trucking to export the demolished concrete. The stair foundations will need to be carefully reformed and re-poured over the next 2 weeks in preparation for the resetting of the granite stair treads later in the project. The electrical subcontractor is also placing material orders for wires, conduit, and light fixtures. The project has had no significant delays or cost adjustments, and demolition remains on schedule. Stefelli General Construction began work on June 1st and has now completed curb and driveway replacement, topsoil, and seed on the outside perimeter, approximately half the inside perimeter on both Anthony and Wayne Boulevard. Miscellaneous sidewalk replacements across Madison will begin in 1 to 2 weeks. Paver resets downtown and several driveway aprons will also be improved in the Central Business District as part of this project. A weekly status report is available on RoseNet. If you have any problems, please contact the Madison Police or the Borough Engineer. AC Schultes mobilized on July 15th and provided a crane at the Well AB treatment facility to remove the pump and motor. The company successfully transported the pump to their facility and began the rebuilding process for the vertical turbine pump. For DPW, the road department has started restriping sidewalks in all school zones in preparation for in-person education to start August 30th. As of now, DPW is topping off both rock salt and domes to take advantage of lower pricing during the summer and to ensure an adequate supply for the approaching winter weather season. New swings were installed at the Dodge Field Playground. The mechanical division is working on the repurposing of a former police patrol vehicle for general administrative use. The new textile recycling bin will be installed at the DPW yard in 2 weeks. A meeting was held with Shade Tree to talk about the 12 to 15 tree refusals that Ken will visit or call to try and convince them otherwise. The superintendent of schools was emailed to inventory trees on school properties and offer free tree planting. Okay, for the health department, New Jersey is seeing an increase in COVID-19 activity. Madison reports 885 total confirmed cases, with 7 new positive cases reported in Madison this month. The increase comes as the Delta variant is now the dominant variant in New Jersey and is driving increased case activity. Vaccines remain the best way to prevent or reduce the severity of disease for all COVID-19 infections, including those caused by known variants. While no new mandates are currently in place, as cases of the more contagious Delta variant increase, residents should consider introducing or continuing other mitigation efforts like hand washing and the use of masks. As of Friday, 78% of Madison residents have been fully vaccinated. Should be great if it was 100%. Adults can obtain a single dose JJ vaccine from the Madison Health Department. Clinics are being offered on Tuesdays throughout the month of July. Other local pharmacy and healthcare vaccine sites are available to all residents 12 or older. Visit rosenet.org for updates on New Jersey's vaccination program, COVID-19 testing, and other pandemic guidance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Community Affairs, Ms. Cohen.
Short and sweet tonight, Mayor. Don't forget to visit the farmers market Thursdays from 1 to 6. Lots of new vendors are there, as well as the oldies and goodies. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. And Utilities, Ms. Ehrlich.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The electric department addressed a number of recent outages due to the heat and stormy weather we've had these last few weeks. On Sunday, July 11th, 14 through 21 Kings Road experienced a power outage due to a squirrel tripping a fuse. On Monday the 12th, 246 Woodland reported half power caused by wires burning up at the transformer. 5 days later, on Saturday the 17th, Park Avenue had a power outage due to a primary connector burning through the cutout box. And the same day, just after that call I mentioned was completed, Lathrop Avenue experienced a power outage due to a tripped fuse caused by a thunder and lightning storm that passed through. And finally, on that same night, Park Avenue had another power outage due to a lightning strike burning through 2 primary feeder wires. The crew worked in the pouring rain after lightning subsided to restore power at, I believe, 1 in the morning. And finally, the next day on July 18th, a portion of Longview Avenue lost power caused by a large branch falling on a transformer and tripping the fuse. So this week reminds us how lucky we are to have our hardworking electric department on call and keeping us energized around the clock. The electric department also completed installing LED streetlights on Woodland Road and Ridgedale Avenue and is currently working on completing LED lights on Rosedale Avenue. The water department advises that it is lead and copper testing time once again. Every 3 years, the water department tests homes throughout the town based on a predetermined list. The homes selected have copper pipes with lead solder installed before 1983 and are being tested for the presence of lead and or copper in the home's plumbing system. The Madison water system is on a reduced testing protocol because our water is not characterized as aggressive. This is because our well water is pumped from a limestone aquifer. The minerals dissolved in our water cause hardness, which leaves calcium deposits inside the piping rather than stripping the pipe and solder material away from the home's plumbing. And finally, odd and even watering days are still in effect for the rest of the summer. Please refrain from watering when the sun is up, when 50% of the water used is lost to evaporation. That's all.
Thank you. Any communications and petitions?
Yes, Mayor. Council received an email July 19th from Elena Limporis regarding the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission's proposed power plant in Newark, New Jersey. Another email dated July the 20th from Lois Bott of Green Avenue, supporting the mayor and council's efforts to preserve the Drew Forest. An email dated July 21st from Carol Martirana from Barnesdale Road, supporting the efforts to preserve the Drew Forest. An email dated July 21st from Michael Giordano of Crestwood Road regarding a personnel issue, and an email dated today, July the 26th, from Sarah Fisher of Niles Avenue, raising concern for the proposed basketball courts at the Madison Community Pool.
Thank you. And now we're on to our first of two invitations for discussion. For those that are with us for the first time, this one is limited to items that are on our agenda discussion or resolutions. If you want to comment on other topics, we will have a second comment period coming up very shortly after our ordinances are put up for hearing. So these are the topics you can comment on. Comment on the Cook Avenue parking lot and Waverly Place reconstruction, or the American Rescue Plan Act funding that we will be discussing. And these are the following resolutions you may comment on. Resolution 211, confirming the membership of Alexander Sweeten in the Madison Hose Company 1, as reported by Councilwoman Byrne. Resolution 212 is approving raffle license for the Rotary Club of Madison for December. Resolution 213 is rescinding Resolution 206, awarding a contract to Allegiance Truck for the purchase of international hook lift truck and accessories under Sourcewell. Resolution 214 is authorizing the sale of surplus property that are no longer needed for public use, and we've done through an online auction website. Resolution 215 is authorizing execution of settlement agreement and mutual release with Midwest Construction Company related to 2020 road reconstruction project. Resolution 216 is ratifying salary increases for certain building department, electric, water utility, and Department of Public Works employees. The increases vary from increase from 46.9 to 55,000. 48.8 to 55,000, 52.1 to 55,000, 41.5 to 50,000. This reflects the review of their jobs and puts them in line with other similar positions. Resolution 217 is authorizing Morris County Trail Construction Grant application. The project is grant program is an amount of $196,000. Or 20% on the Borough of Madison would be $49,000. Resolution 218 is directing the CFO to take administrative actions to appropriate the American Rescue and funds, which you'll hear about shortly. Resolution 219 is accepting amended spending plan for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is part of our settlement. And that is it. So you can comment on those resolutions, or again, the reconstruction projects, or the ARPA funding. When I recognize your name, please state your name, your address, and the agenda item or resolution you're commenting on. Failure to do so may cause you to be cut off. We ask you to try to keep your comments 3 minutes, but we give you a 1 minute grace period, and we'll stop you at 4. Claire Whitcomb, welcome.
Hi there. I'm Claire Whitcomb, 12 Fairwood Road. I'm just looking forward to the discussion on Cook Avenue parking lot. I know that rain gardens are in the plan, and I was thinking that there might be low permeable concrete, and I just don't know where all the plans landed. But I think what we saw last at the Environmental Commission, and in partnership with Shade Tree and Sustainable Madison, was a very progressive plan, and I'm curious to see where it is now and if there's a review by our committees.
Thank you, Claire. And now Pat Rowe, welcome Pat. We've missed you.
Hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Oh, God, I got to remind people to unmute everything. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, all. Had a couple quick questions and comments. The first is on the settlement. Can you let us know how much the amount is for, and if the borough is paying it or somebody else? And then the questions, I guess, or comments I have about the American Rescue Plan money. Number one, it looks like it's going to be used for projects that were on the capital budget for 2023, the radio replacement. Is there no project that can be done sooner with the money? It seems like it's a long ways off for money that was supposed to be pumped into the economy as quickly as possible and to help the borough out. Second, on that money, I saw it, there's about $400,000 spread across 4 departments, so it's pretty close to the amount that we're getting. Will the capital budget be increased by that amount since we're going to be getting extra money to spend that year, or are you going to hold the capital budget approximately at that level in 2023 and save the taxpayers some money overall? And then I'll listen to the comments, or rather the presentation. If I have any more comments or questions, I'll make them at the end, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pat. And Jim, hopefully you caught some of those things, the timing of the capital expenditures and a few others. So hope that in your presentation. And Ray, if you want to comment on the settlement on the road reconstruction with Midwest.
Yep, that is using the funds that were allocated previously as part of the construction contract. So it's being paid for by the borough funds, but there's no exceedance of the budget. The settlement basically provides that we would pay the vendors directly to ensure they're paid, and that there's also a debarment of that contractor for a 5-year period from further activity in the borough. So there's no additional funding required.
Thank you. All right, with no other hands raised, we will close this part of the meeting, and we will go to our capital discussions. I'm going to take this first one. Michael, do we have the Cook Avenue coming up in a second here? All right, this is our Cook Avenue project. It was planned to be a 2021 construction project. It will now most likely be 2022 because of some logistics in there. And Claire, the rain gardens are included. The pervious pavement, I'll have to double check with Bob Vogel as to any changes related to that. But a couple of key things that as you look at this, and at the upper part of the screen, just to give you your bearings, that's Cook Avenue. So the lower part of that parking lot is the back of the existing stores. If you know how it works right now, there are a total of 5 driveways. Half of them, or 3 of them, are in theory exits, and 2 are entrances, or the other way around. If anyone has driven there on a regular basis, you know how often people are going the wrong way and coming out the entrance and so on. So we would reduce it to 2 entrances and exits, so that each one would serve a dual purpose. And you see that every drive aisle is a 2-way one, so that will create a better flow. And when nothing worse than people going the wrong way against one way when people do not see the car coming, they didn't expect it. As you can see, also, this is, besides being a layout that's better for the drivers, it's a layout far better for pedestrians, with sidewalks incorporated into the sidewalk, into the areas. The green areas are the stormwater recharge areas, partially rain gardens. And our biggest hurdle, and the reason this has been pushed back, is relocation of utilities. Currently, Verizon, including Fios, Cablevision, have their utilities go across the parking lot. They need to be moved to the perimeter. So the action that will be taking place this year will be to put the new utility poles in place, so the Borough of Madison can move the electric lines, and the utility companies have been notified of the pending project, so they can move their utility lines to the new location. And again, the Cook Avenue parking lot is our main parking lot for shoppers, and it has never been very impressive as a main parking lot. This will change the whole dynamic and really create a much more welcoming feeling to our shoppers. Another key element, as you'll see at the bottom of those islands, is far more handicap parking. That I believe there may only be 2 spots right now, and so we're adding those to bring us more up to code. And the charging stations will also be incorporated into it. So that is Cook. That again was we'll be looking at a 2022. Any comments or questions on Cook Avenue before we Deb? And then Austri?
2 quick questions on where the fire lane is now. Right now, whenever there's a delivery, it's really hard to get around them, but obviously places need delivery. So is it going to increase that room a little bit so it's easier to get around delivery trucks and see what's coming? And now that, so that you don't hit somebody, I'm just worried about the spacing there.
Offhand, it has to increase, because right now it's a 1-way drive. So the it's now currently would be 2-way. So in essence, if someone is parked to do a delivery, at least you have one of the remaining lanes remaining, where before it would have taken out the single lane.
All right. And then the other question, you mentioned the increase in handicap spaces, which is great. What does it do to the overall parking spaces? Does it increase the number, decrease the number?
Right now, the overall plan is for 125 parking spaces. You'll see upper right corner. 5 of that includes 5 handicap. It is a minor reduction from the current, but one of the things that we have quite a few park spots that are reserved for permits only, and that will be moved to another location, a more appropriate location. Perfect. As this should be the primary spot for shoppers. I live in this town, and I'm always taken aback that our primary spot. Welcome to Madison, come and shop. But by the way, spots removed is permit only. That's not the image we want to have.
You answered my last one about the permits, and I am very glad to see the rain gardens and EV charging stations. Thank you.
Yep. Austri?
That was my question also, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? And we'll take that down. We don't have a graphic for Waverly Place because we're not ready for graphics on Waverly Place. But I will. There was confusion about a drawing that did go out as part of the application, so I'll explain that. So similar with all our road reconstruction. Waverly Place has been on the 5-year plan. Currently, it's scheduled for 2022, so that means it's been on the schedule since 2018. The typical road reconstruction is the stormwater, curbs, sidewalks, pavement, traffic calming if appropriate, and it's always, or if necessary, preceded by underground utilities that may need to be replaced, such as water or gas, working with PSE&G. Definitely Waverly is not typical. It will include all those things, and there's major stormwater issues with Waverly, so it will be improved. But this is the center of our town, and it's an opportunity that only comes probably once every 3 decades to kind of reinvent the center of the town. For those of us have grew up in Madison, we will remember in the 60s and early 70s that Waverly Place had angle parking on both sides, no parking in the middle. And the only thing in the middle was the Cobra lights that took care of the lighting. And if you go back to earlier pictures, you'll see a couple other versions of Waverly Place. But every version, Waverly was and is the center of our downtown. So how do we come around to thinking about a new Waverly Place if that's where we want to go? And we use the master plan as a guiding principle, and you'll see even a concept drawing in the master plan. Don't start analyzing one because it's not that was just a concept. But the idea behind it is creating gathering places, making it pedestrian friendly, creating destinations. Our emphasis on being a walkable town, and again, recognizing that this is our town center. Have our Christmas tree there. We have the clock there. We have people forever meeting. But if you think about today's Waverly Place, if you ran it through those master plan filters, there's 3 pedestrian areas, which are the sidewalks on the respective sides and the median area, but they're separated by 4 lanes of parking, which have the parking on either curb and then the parking in the middle. And then also throw to that separation are 3 lanes and even sometimes 4 lanes of traffic. So it's certainly not a pedestrian friendly, welcoming concept. So how do we develop concepts and where do we go? Well, one, we had a volunteer, our recent stepping down from the Parks Committee, Tom Salaki, had done a couple of concepts to get people thinking. But also we have to run things through what we call the engineering feasibility filter. You can be very creative, but then the engineer's job is to bring it down back to earth and say, this is what you can do easily, or this is what will become very, very expensive. Looking at where the existing utilities are, the sanitary sewers, the existing storm sewer. In addition to those underground, and besides having our gas underground, since all the utilities are buried in downtown, we have a electric vault that is down underground. So that has to all be considered in any plan. It doesn't eliminate things; it just may change the cost options. So our engineers put together a drawing that recognized the utilities and also recognized the goal to create a pedestrian center. And that is what was attached to our application to the state for our grant application, but is not intended to be the final story. That's just a start of the story, really. So what's our next steps? And our next steps, which hopefully may come in our next meeting, is hiring a landscape architect who will take us through the process of what's called a charrette, having meetings, stakeholder meetings, and getting people to talk about their dreams of the ideal Waverly Place. They might be talking about what they loved about our current Waverly Place. We interviewed one landscape architect, and he's very familiar with our events such as Halloween, Easter, and the Christmas parade and so on. And so recognizing that this is the center for all those activities. And so we kind of remember all that. We talk about how we might want to expand on that tradition and who are the people at our stakeholders, virtually everyone. Certainly as far as a regulatory area, there's the Historic Preservation Commission, there'd be the Environmental Commission, maybe Sustainable Madison and others would look at it. Our shop owners, our property owners, the Chamber of Commerce would certainly be one of our stakeholders to sit down and talk with. And certainly not to be forgotten are the residents, people that really generate the activity on Waverly Place. So we will be bringing on that landscape architect to help bring us through these discussions. We'll be scheduling the, similar to the master plan process, scheduling various stakeholder meetings to gather all this input. It's then put into the hopper with the engineers, our landscape architect, and then we would come up with a proposed plan, which would come back to the council and for hopefully final approval. In the currently Waverly Place is in the 2022 capital budget, but if you put all that together, realistically, there is no way we can hit that deadline, because on top of all that planning and design, other things that have to be done, just like Cook Avenue parking lot, the construction has to be done in a way that minimizes disruptions. It's not to say there would be zero disruptions, but we have to minimize disruptions, which means more likely a summertime project when things are a little quieter. Because of the historic designation of our downtown, the state has to review it. And then there's also design may change the configuration of the central Waverly Main Street intersection. And so if that is the case, Department of Transportation would have to chime in. So there's a whole lot of things that would need to be lined up in order to make this happen. So, so that is where we are. I just wanted to make sure people understood the process since we put in that grant application to the state. And again, we don't have a project right now, but the state has enough to go on to hopefully be award us a grant towards a major project. All right, questions or comments? Okay. All right. Thank you. So a lot more to come, and now we'll shift on to our CFO, Jim Burnett, and American Rescue Plan Act funding.
Thank you, Mayor. Hope everyone can hear me. I want to talk for a few minutes about the American Rescue Plan funds, capital, and roads. I believe my very favorite fire chief, Lou DeRosa, is also on the call. Lou, are you there? If not, Michael, if you could promote Lou. I know he's in the audience. Lou's here to answer some questions. But I wanted to talk to council for a few minutes about the American Rescue Plan funds and administration's recommendation on them. The borough will receive $1,847,818.66 in American Rescue Plan funds, which is fantastic. However, as council knows, last year we talked about the municipal fund balance dropping significantly and borough revenues dropping by over $1 million in last year due to revenues. Those revenue shortfalls are continuing to happen in 2021. They're not getting better. By example, we have daily parking for the daily parking fees that we collect at the Crescent and behind the Public Safety Building and the Ambulance Corps. In 2019, we collected $75,000 in funds. In 2021, we barely collected $1,000. In court fees for 2019, we collected $154,000. We've collected only $37,000 in 2021. So 154,000 to 37. So we're probably going to be close to $100,000 short in court fees, close to $50,000 short in daily parking fees. Interest on bank balances in 2019, we had $425,000 in interest earned on our bank balances. This year, so far, it's only $29,000. So we'll be short probably $350,000. So we're certainly looking at being short $500,000 on revenue in 2021 on just in those three items as compared to 2019. So finances aren't improving as quickly as we had hoped. As such, administration during the upcoming budget cycle is going to be talking about scaling back on the 2022 capital and 2023 capital. We will end up scaling back on certain projects that we can defer, like roads and other projects, storm drains and other items like that. What we can't defer any longer is the radio system. So I'm going to have Lou DeRosa talk about the need for the radio system. He did that on May 10th, but we'll reiterate that. But circling back to show our capital situation, this was what was presented in December 2020, where we had, as you can see here, needs of 3 million, 5 million, and 5 million. Actually, probably better to look at this line here, 3.8, 5.7, and 5.8. I do not anticipate us being able to sustain this number given our finances. We are going to have to reduce those numbers, and we're going to have to reduce the numbers in 2023. Mr. Rowe is correct that in 2023, we had the radio project funded. We had, and Lou will talk about this in a few minutes, we had some damage done recently to the radio system out at Midwood Tank because of a lightning strike, and we had serious problems with getting the system back up and running. It is up to 35 years old. So because of that, we want to accelerate the start of that project and want to use the American Rescue Plan funds on that. I'm going to go backward on the slide one. So we're asking council to dedicate 1.5 million of the 1.8 million so we can get going on the rest on the radio program. The radio program is 1.9 million, so we won't have quite all the funds. We'll be looking for other sources for that, possible grants and other items, but we need to get moving on this radio system, and we think this is the best way to fund it. And so with that, I'm going to flip to this slide, and hopefully Lou is on at this point in time and can talk to a little bit about the need for the radio system. Michael, is Lou on? Oh God, is everybody frozen? No, Deb's
on but muted.
Okay. Okay, Lou's on but muted. I was afraid everyone was, I froze out.
All right, I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you
You
hear me?
gotcha. Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, good. Good evening. Well, as Jim said, the system we presently have is at its end of life. It's no longer supported. Parts aren't available, and we did take a lightning strike a few months ago where one of the backup radio systems went down. Or actually, the fire department one took a hit, and it's not repairable. So, and I can't get replacement parts. So we're still working on our primary. It's working good, and our fingers are crossed. We have enlisted the help of our radio consultant, who has already got us relicensed for a trunking radio system with the FCC. So that's already set and ready to go. And all we're waiting for now is the funding to move forward with it. We, as Jim mentioned, we submitted a assistance to firefighter grant back in the spring for radios in conjunction with the ambulance squad. They started handing out the money. We're still in the running. We're hoping for it. That's approximately $330,000. So if we can get that grant, hopefully we'll know something about September, October of this year. We won't need much to get us to the finish line, approximately $85,000 at that point to make us whole. So it's work in progress. David Stern, which is our VCOM, which is our radio consultant, we had a meeting with him a few weeks ago, and he's in the process of putting together a proposal to design and take the next step when we're ready to take the next step to implement and put this radio system together. And just so we're clear again, this is a municipal radio system. It is not a fire department radio system. It's police, fire, EMS, public works, electric, DPW, water, sewer, and for other events too, is mentioned in the slide there too, Bottle Hill Day, Christmas parade. It could be offered to the schools individually and as a group. So there's many advantages to moving forward with the trunk system.
So we're asking for the total cost is 1.9 million. It's 1.3 million for the system and 615 for the portable radios. As Lou said, we have AFG Assistance to Firefighter grant, which will help on that $615,000. We don't know if we're going to get that. But we're asking council to pass a resolution to allow me to take the necessary administrative and accounting steps to appropriate the $1.5 million for the ARP radio system. The remaining $347,000 in ARP funds would be available for economic development or other eligible programs as determined by council. So there will be additional funds, whether it's for downtown economic development or other programs that council wants to advance. But administration feels strongly, and I know Kevin, our Chief Lou does, as well as the folks at the fire department and everywhere else, that this is a public safety system, this radio system that will help all Madisonians keep us safer and protect and better serve all of the staff that are on various radio systems. Right now, the electric utility really can't talk to DPW or can't talk to fire during emergencies because they're on different bands and completely different radio systems. This puts everybody in a system where they can have talk groups and talk to each other during emergencies. And I can tell you, being here during Superstorm Sandy and other emergency situations, it is extremely challenging to have when you don't have the ability to communicate properly in those situations. So with that, we're asking council to pass the resolution, as the mayor mentioned, and happy to take any questions. I think I pretty much answered Pat's questions in terms of why are we doing this instead of other programs in 2022. Our hope is that we're going to be able to accelerate this spending. The state is still coming out with accounting guidelines on exactly how this this funding could happen. So it might be, we haven't received the funds yet, but it may end up receiving it as a grant, and then you'll see other administrative actions I'll be asking you to take to be able to accept the funds as a grant and move forward with it. But we want to start working with our auditor and give Lou kind of the green light to at least start working on more of the necessary steps to order the system.
Ostry?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Jim, the system costs approximately 1.9 million, and you're suggesting we reserve 1.5 million. So where will we get the remaining funds?
So we're hoping to get the AFG grant. If we don't, what's not included in this is funds that can come from the utilities, from the electric utility and water utility. We could we would end up using those funds to bridge the gap. There are utilities that are going to be using the system, so it's appropriate to use capital from those utilities to help pay for it. Okay.
And then when do we think we can expect the first payment from the American Rescue Plan funds?
So we haven't got it yet. I don't want to say any day, but other towns have received their funds. We put in our request for the funds, so we should be getting the first half, the first tranche, which is half of the $1.8 million that was mentioned. So we'll be getting those funds soon.
So then how and when would we start the radio project?
That's going to be determined by how the state finally comes up with guidance. They come up with preliminary guidance, but in talking to the auditor on Friday, they may change it and make it easier for us to accelerate spending for this type of project. So one possibility is we could advance fund out of general capital, and then, as we do with our road programs, use the grant funds to replenish. So
Okay.
that's one possible option.
Okay, thank you.
John?
So I'm sorry, thank you. Just a couple of questions, Jim. Oh, two really. One, what's the life expectancy of this system? Number one, and number two, how difficult will it be to maintain the system on an ongoing basis?
I'm gonna let Lou answer those questions. I can say that the previous system, parts of it were installed as long ago as 1993. So I'm kind of always looking at Lou saying, we're gonna get 25 years out of this, right? So, but Lou, I'll let Lou answer that question specifically.
Well, I would anticipate 20 to 25 years easily out of the system, just like we got now. As far as maintaining it and reliability of it, it actually should be a little easier to maintain, because now taking advantage of the new technologies, everything is IP based. So the system would have remote access capability. So when there is a problem or there is a reprogramming or a tweaking that has to be done, remote work can be done on this system versus having someone physically have to come out to the sites now and do some work. So, but usually once these systems are set up and running, you know, they're pretty rock solid. They're designed to, you know, they meet a higher standard than like you would use for a trucking company or those types of systems. So it's in public safety's interest to keep moving forward with the project. Under the FCC guidelines too, we have to keep moving forward. We can't just sit on the license because there's other people that are chasing it as well. So this is a good step for us.
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Deb?
So on the I have a couple of things, but to start with the radio system, just two questions. First of all, I definitely think it's something we need to do. But you did mention about the schools. Would it be that the schools could have their own channel so they could communicate with each other? So if somebody from buildings and grounds was in the junior school and the high school needed them to come over there next, that they could radio them? Or I guess, could it also be that maybe the offices had a way to use that to contact the fire or police station if there was an emergent situation at the schools that fire or police were needed?
The answer is yes to all your questions. On a trunk system, because you can carve it up because it's a computer that's actually managing it all. Each school could be an individual unto itself, and there could be different segments within each school, whether it be administration, teachers, grounds, whatever. And then there could be a joint channel that they could all share. It's pretty much whatever it's in programming, but yes, we would all share space with police, fire, and EMS getting the priorities in the situation with all the talk groups. Most people talk on the radio only for anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds is the average communication time. So there's really no log jam that should occur. And as far as like the school resource officers, they could monitor a respective school transmission if they wanted to, or vice versa. You can set up priorities as to who can monitor who. It's a pretty unique system. It could be as sophisticated as we want it or as simple as we want it. So.
Well, is there a limit to how many trunks there are, how many different channels there are?
Yeah, we're licensed for 4 of them, and God, I wish I had my other notes with me back I'm at home right now, but there's a limit, but there's plenty of space for all of us to work into. So it was part of the discussions when we were planning this all out, so that we wouldn't overload it in a catastrophic event. So we're confident it's going to work great for us.
Lou, there's basically multiple. You can have dozens of talk groups depending on how you want to set up things.
Yep, independent, and you have to give permissions for other groups to use your talk group. We couldn't like jump on the Board of Eds and they couldn't jump on ours. We'd have to give permissions and allow it. So.
And then Bob and Jim, I have questions not related to that. Do you want to finish with Lou and then I'll ask my other questions, or just ask them all now? You're muted, Bob, but I think you're saying go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I know we haven't talked about how we're going to do something with the rest of that money, so I'm just going to throw it out there, and if this isn't the right place or time, I'll ask for forgiveness afterwards. But just as what to potentially do with that $347,000 that could be left, that to Pat's point could maybe be used a little sooner. I'd love to see, and obviously DDC would need to be included, but we've got the big wayfinding and gateway signs that needs money, beautification of downtown, helping our businesses continue to recover from COVID and the continuation of that, possibly something like a historical tour app with QR codes so that people could get history as they walked around, audio and visual, possible video to promote our businesses, and things like that. And then for me personally, I would love to see some of that money also go to trails and parks maintenance. We have a lot of good trails that are getting beaten up with these storms. So if it's possible, again, just throwing them out there. And Bob, I don't know if at some point we'll find a way to discuss other things. I'm sure other council members have ideas as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to certainly economic development is high on my list. I had I guess it was Saturday night after an event, stopped downtown and had a nice dinner on the sidewalk. It was nice to see inside people sitting at the bar. But 2 years ago, there would have been 3-4 people deep at the bar. So we can't think we're out of this and all the businesses are returning. We need, just as we look at reinvention of Waverly Place, the wayfinding and the other things you mentioned, Madison has an opportunity to stand out, as we often have. And I think it would be a good way to, go through the process of how can we reinvest to really make us stand out and bring even more life to our downtown and other areas. Other comments or questions? Rachel?
Can you hear me better this time? I'm sorry about the audio problem. Everyone.
Yeah, you got a little ringing there. But
Sorry about that. I'll be brief. Looking at the 5-year capital plans from the fire department and the police department presented in this year's budget, both departments projected a $400,000 investment in this system for 2023. And clearly this would, that spend would go away if we invest upfront and early with this, but really feels like windfall money. Jim, can you characterize a little bit how that would reshape our 5-year capital plan with regard to those departments and how we would think about spending those significant amounts of money? Maybe not in specific purchases, but does the total spend come down, or do we still seek to? How does this balance the budget or not? I guess is what I'm asking.
It's gonna help with the 5-year capital plan, but I do not see us having the ability to fund 5.7 million in 2022 if we don't include this radio system. So we'll still have to cut back on some roads, but it will help significantly that this portion of money here, that's you said the 800,000 that's embedded in here no longer needs to be funded. It will certainly help. That'll bring our total need in 2023 down to 5 million. I still think Ray and I are going to have to work on Bob Vogel and work on all the other department heads to get these numbers down below $4 million. So this goes from 5.8 to 5 million. We still have to find $1 million in savings there, and we're going to have to defer some of the spending in 2022, maybe out to 2024, 2025, because we just the revenues are not coming back as we had hoped, and hopefully they will down the road. Hopefully commuting into New York City will improve, and other the court revenues will improve. But for now, we are going to have to modify the budget, the capital spend in the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So again, this, or Maureen, did you?
No, I was just going to say thank you for asking all the questions I would have asked.
So again, this is resolution 218, and will allow us to reinvest 1.5 million of this of the rescue plan funding back into the economy, and more importantly, directly to our residents, is have a radio system that for public safety and others that will meet the needs and be ready for our next emergency. All right, we now move on to ordinances for hearing. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Okay, the ordinance is scheduled for hearing, were introduced by title and passed at a first reading at the regular meeting of the council held on July the 12th, 2021. Were posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to the general public requesting same.
I call up ordinances for second reading. Ask the clerk to read said ordinance by title. Ordinance 36-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending chapter 185-30 of the Borough Code to prohibit parking during certain hours on Del Barton Drive.
Mayor, I move
Not yet. Hold a second. Open the hearing, and just as before I open the hearing, just a note that there was an error, a minor error in the ordinance, and so it was corrected not to, the ordinance read that it would be a full-time ban on parking, that it's only during athletic events. So with that, I open the hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on the on ordinance 36 on parking during certain hours on Del Barton Drive? Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 36-2021.
Second,
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes.
All right, I declare ordinance 36-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice there of a newspaper, file the ordinance according to the law. Ordinance 37-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $75,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the conversion of existing rental units at John Avenue into multiple units.
I open the hearing on ordinance 37. And we're also picking up someone background audio on someone's channel there. So mute yourself if you're not speaking. Anyone from the public to comment on ordinance 37, please raise your hand now. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 37-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes.
I declare ordinance 37-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice there of a newspaper and file the ordinance according to the law. And now we're on to invitation for discussion number 2. This is when you may comment on any topic. Same rules apply. When you are recognized and unmuted, please state your name and address. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but we will give you a 1-minute grace, and it will be asked to stop at 4. Peter Osberg, you are now, you'll be brought up and unmute, and please unmute yourself.
Hey everyone, Peter Osberg, 7 Longview Ave, Madison, New Jersey. Before I even start my statement, I just wanted to say that Cook Avenue parking looks fantastic. I'm totally in agreement with Mayor Connolly's statement about that's the first thing people see, and it's sort of embarrassing. So glad to see that's on the docket. But my real reason for calling in today is similar to the reason I came in about a month ago. So I wanted to thank the mayor and council for making the right decision to table ordinance 29 that would have provided public funding for the basketball and pickleball courts at the Madison pool. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems the intention is to go ahead with the plan, but just negotiate the lease amendment with the pool before funding is appropriated. To be clear, I'm not against more outdoor recreation facilities. However, I disagree with the location and the initially proposed terms, which were to provide exclusive access to a private club that is already subsidized by the borough. So I created an online petition, which can be found at change.org/no-public-funds, that garnered over 200 signatures within just 3 days of launching, despite limited distribution. My 3 posts on Facebook have also generated significant engagement, nearly 150 comments and 70+ reactions, with a majority seemingly against the current location and terms. The point being, this is a contentious issue, and many Madisonians agree that we need to pump the brakes on this project and take a better accounting of all the affected stakeholders, including the taxpayers, pool members, and the surrounding neighborhood. And so on behalf of the citizens of Madison and the members of the pool, I'm asking the mayor and council to commit to doing just that. Please go back to the drawing board. I also wanted to say a few things about the Madison pool. I would have happily signed Dutch Holland's petition in support of more outdoor recreation facilities if it didn't involve the Madison pool, which in my mind has lost the right to use the word community in its name. It is far more expensive than most other public or community pools in the area. Between the high cost and lack of meaningful financial aid, it is now out of reach for many in our community. Their goal should be to set the rates as low as financially viable in order to maximize the membership and use by the entire community. Instead, they have raised rates something like 10% per year since I joined in 2011, and unsurprisingly, are having a harder time attracting members. The New Providence Community Pool is quite similar to Madison's in that it was built in the 60s on land leased from the town, and its rates, while lower than Madison, are above those of other towns. But there are some differences. It's a much bigger facility with 2 Olympic pools, a kiddie pool, 1 and 3 meter high dives, a slide, chairs for guests, and yes, basketball courts, which, by the way, were refurbished and expanded a few years ago with costs jointly borne by the pool and borough.
1 minute, Peter.
Yeah, but the most significant difference is that Madison and New Providence is that the lease with the town contains several requirements that essentially force it to be a resource for the entire community, not just the private members. I won't go through them all, but one is to provide reduced fee memberships for all residents eligible for the free and reduced lunch program. And they must provide public notice of that option every year. There are also several free community events open to all residents. The Madison pool needs more oversight by the town, and I would urge the council to investigate making changes to the lease, irrespective of whether it needs to be amended because of the court project. And I suggest using New Providence as a guide. Let's put community back in the Madison community pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And just a couple of things. Thank you for comments on Cook parking. The basketball, if it's coming back, it will be as suggested by you. It will be fully vetted. It will go through parks. It will go through any other of our advisory committees that need to opine on it, and would have a full public hearing. So that's nothing will be coming up in the future without those steps. And appreciate your comments on the community pool. Some are neighboring pools are actually run by municipalities, and some are partnerships. And Madison Community Pool has been a long time partner, and I think you brought up some good things on how we can improve on that. So we'll keep the conversations going. Judy Kroll.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Judy Kroll, I live on Laurel Way. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Friends of the Drew Forest and our community as a whole. Friends of the Drew Forest formed this past spring with the goal of preserving all 53 acres of Drew's rare forest in Madison, while also strengthening the university for the long term. Thanks to a 12-year effort by Drew and partner organizations, the forest has become a biodiversity hotspot and inspiring example of woodland habitat restoration. The forest is beautiful. It's a place that all residents can visit, and it helps purify our water and our air. It's a beloved and signature feature of the university as well. Friends of the Drew Forest fully supports Resolution 156, and we're grateful for all you're doing, Mayor, Council, and administrators to help the resolution's goals move into reality for all of us. Last month, the Friends posted a petition in support of these goals. You can find it on our website, friendsofthedrewforest.org. We've shared with groups in Madison and with some of the university's alums, and it has taken on a life of its own. There are now over 7,000 signatures and more growing each day. The petition's opening statement is, quote, "We ask that you join us to help permanently protect the entire Drew Forest Preserve and the countless benefits it provides, and at the same time help Drew, known as the University in the Forest, continue its educational mission for years to come." Along with these 7,000 plus signatures, literally hundreds of people have left supportive comments. Tonight, some of my co-members of Friends Group will read a few of those comments, and they're in the speaking queue behind me. We're just going to give you a flavor of what's been added to the site as far as comments, because it's not just about the numbers of people, although we are very impressed and happy about the numbers of people, but there's enormous enthusiasm for preserving the forest. People really feel enriched and grateful to have that here, to have the forest here, They don't want to lose it. They don't want to lose any part of it. We hope any Madison residents present at the meeting tonight will take advantage of the fun ways to connect with the Forest Preserve and our Friends group. Residents can go to friendsofthedrewforest.org for starters. There they can learn more about the forest itself and sign the petition too. Some of the Friends are also hosting free walking tours of the Zook Arboretum and the Hepburn Woods portions of the 58-3-acre site. You'll see us at the farmers market and around town more and more, so please come by and say hello. In closing, we'd like to thank you, Mayor Conley, all council members, Mr. Cody, and the administration for the steps you're taking to preserve the extraordinary Drew Forest while also working to support the long-term strength of the university. Friends of the Drew Forest and thousands of members of the public are fully behind you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. And we'll hold off on any response to Drew Forest comments until the end. So Pat Rowe.
Unmute. There we go. Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. Just to go back to the radio and the rescue plan, I appreciate the comments, and I believe you answered the questions I had at the time. One further comment that I do have or question is there enough capacity on that system to allow us to share it with another smaller municipality like Harding? That would seem like a good way to cost share a fairly expensive asset and something that is technologically capable of being carved up, as the fire chief said, across just not multiple entities within the borough, but possibly additional entities outside the borough. So that's a question. The second thing is on the balance of the money. I understand, people are looking to spend that money, but I would remind people that that money was really sent out as a way to plug gaps in municipal budgets. And I don't think it really should be looked upon as something that we should be, spending above and beyond what we already had in our budget this year or even in future budgets. I think the CFO has identified multiple areas where there are revenue challenges, and we should be looking to cover some of those. And then speaking about some of them, specifically that he's mentioned multiple times over the last year and a half, the issue with the interest income. I think, it's incumbent on the borough as it does its future budgets to almost zero out that revenue item as anticipated and really just look at it in the future as an add-on, that if the money comes in above zero or some small amount of money, it's used in the next year's capital budget to bring a project forward. But we really should no longer even assume it as we seem to have as a part of a revenue, even if it's just unanticipated revenue, because it's definitely not going to be there on a regular basis. I expect over time the parking, the fines will come back. Although I'd be interested to hear why fines are continue to be down. I would have thought by now they'd be coming back. But something like interest income is not something we should really be counting on either formally or even informally in our budgets and our budget thinking. It should just be a capital add-on and sort of a opportunistic thing that we can use in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Pat. And Jim, I don't know if you know the answer on, I believe there's a limited range with from the location of transmitters and receivers.
That's correct, Mayor. If the town wanted to, theoretically, we could, but they would need to install all the towers and equipment, and then get their own radios. So it would be pretty expensive for the town to do that. Most other towns are on the county, but the county is charging hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for the service. And when you assume that our system is going to last 20, 25 years, and we can pay for part of it from the utilities, and we can, and we may get AFG grant funds, it's a better deal for us to have our own system. And then of course that allows us to have our own dispatch. And then not anticipating municipal revenue or interest income as revenue, there's been a desire to throttle back on the amount of fund balance that is generated annually. So the amount of interest income was anticipated. It was increased specifically to throttle back on fund balance because there was concern that we were going beyond that guideline. So that's why that was done. But Mr. Rowe's idea has merit.
Thank you very much. And now we'll bring Dennis up, please, since I only see your first name, state your full name and address as you come on.
Dennis Schreiber, Amelia Court. And this is a comment that is probably more for Jim Barnett, if Jim's still with us. And Jim, if in the budget, given that we see that we're going to have a shortfall in revenues and you've wanted to cut some of the expenses as well, the question is, are the bump outs planned for Green Avenue still in the budget?
We'll capture that question, and if you have anything else, Dennis.
Just one more comment to follow up on that. If they are still in the budget, take them out. That's an easy $300,000 I just saved you, I humbly suggest. So please pass that on to Jim for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. And as of now, there's also state grant money for that. It is still in there, but to be reviewed before fully funded. And now we'll bring up Sharon Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Sharon Harris. I'm at 114 Rosedale Avenue. In regards to Ordinance 29, I live directly across the street from the Madison Pool parking lot. And again, my comments to support what Peter had said. I'm not opposed to the addition of recreational facilities, but I am opposed to the location. The lights are on that pool all night. They never turn off. The addition of pickleball, which from what I read was going in the smaller parking lot in the back. The parking lot for the pool on a hot day, people are parking on the grass, they're parking at Memorial Field. Is anybody taken into account the number of parking spots that would be utilized by a pickleball location? And I also just saw in the Star Ledger on July 18th, the village of Ridgewood, New Jersey, excessive complaints about the noise that pickleball makes on a constant basis. And actually that village had to restrict the hours of pickleball because the noise disruption to the people who live in that area, a constant ping, ping, ping all day long was very disruptive, and they had to put in sound barriers. So just asking more research to be done on the pickleball and basketball, and if other areas have been considered for this. I mean, namely the MRC, which is what the MRC was designed to be, was the central recreational facility for this town, which has lights already there. There are no neighbors to be impacted by noise or traffic, and it's monitored, I believe, at the MRC. There is some security cameras which we don't have at the pool parking lot. So those are really my concerns, is the location, not the amenities that are being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. And to clarify, as I already made comments about the process, but also the tabling of the ordinance, still that ordinance. So we have to start from scratch anyway. So that kind of lends itself to going through the full process, including discussions as to best locations for it, as with any project in Madison. Now we'll bring up Claire Wickham. Welcome back, Claire.
Hello, Claire Whitcomb, 12 Fairwood Road. Mayor, I appreciate your comments on the basketball pickleball situation. I think it's really exciting what's being planned in a community way for Waverly Place. That's really great. I wonder if motion sensor lights would be helpful at the pool. It doesn't seem like those lights need to be on all night long. So that's an energy saving suggestion that might help neighbors. But my real question is when Jim was discussing the capital funding and projects that need to be postponed, he mentioned that stormwater projects would possibly be postponed. And I wanted to just say that, we've seen so much flooding. The New York subway's flooded. If we have another Superstorm Sandy, we're gonna need a lot of stormwater infrastructure. So I don't know what delaying any of that means, but I think stormwater, a focus on stormwater should be a huge priority for the town. And it would be a good idea to at least from the Environmental Commission's perspective, to understand what our stormwater scope of projects is and what might be sacrificed due to budget constraints.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Good points on stormwater, and it also helps emphasize the importance of this funding, that without the funding coming in, we'd have to be making some really tough decisions about capital investments, and now still tough decisions, but made a whole lot easier and in the process. Mary Jane Lunt. Need to unmute yourself there. Oh, you were unmuted and just got muted again. There we go. Yep, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. My name is Mary Jane Lunt, and I have lived at 10 Highview Terrace in Madison for the past 32 years. Tonight, I am here on behalf of the Friends of the Drew Forest in our community. 34 years ago, this August, I came to Madison to be the Director of Facilities Operations at Drew University. I came from Connecticut College, which, as you know, is located in a much less populated area. I was truly struck by the beauty of the university in the forest and the fact that it was in the metropolitan New York, which is quite frankly why I took the job. I was at Drew for 2 years, and under my watch, we were responsible for planting all those daffodils that I hope some of you have enjoyed in the spring. I truly think it makes the campus prettier. And they've been there for 34 years, so that's a good thing, right? I'm happy to say that I've remained a citizen of Madison, and I just cherish the luxury of walking through the Drew campus. And I thought it might also be interesting to share a bit of historical irony with you tonight. Florence Zuck, the Arboretum's namesake, was also a friend of Ruth Smith, the woman who lived at 10 Highview Terrace for 45 years before I did. Together with Helen Fensky, they were pillars in the community opposition to the creation of the jet port in what is now the Great Swamp. My point being that Madison residents have and continue to be leaders in preserving our natural environment, and I am delighted to be able to continue that legacy. The Friends of the Drew Forest have developed very impressive documents that outline the environmental concerns of what we will miss if we lose those 53 acres of the Drew Forest. As a citizen of Madison and a member of the Friends of Drew Forest, I sincerely applaud and support the Borough Council's Resolution 156/2021. And I thank you, Mayor Conley, the council members, Ray Cody, and the administration. We are here to support your efforts.
Thank you, Mary Jane. And now Christine Hepburn. Welcome, Chris.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Christine Hepburn. I live at 1 Lightning Bug Hollow Road in Hardwick Township, New Jersey. But as Mayor Conley and Ostrubelli and Ray Cody know, I was in Madison, and to be speaking again at a council meeting with Judy Kroll is like being in a time machine. And Joshua Roth is also in this meeting. Can you believe? Anyway, for my comments, next to the Drew Forest, which includes the Zuck Arboretum, of course, is the old Zuck House on Glenwild Road. In 1993, I purchased that house from Florence Zuck, and it truly changed the course of my life. Both what I do for a living, well, a non-living, and where I live on my own 200 acres of woods now. That began with Helen Fensky knocking on my door because she was best friends with Florence Zuck, and it was followed by a biologist friend really opening my eyes to the amazing wildlife in the Drew Forest. So that forest was my child's and my playground, and it was also my house of worship. I'll never forget one Easter Sunday morning when our little family went into those woods and just stood in awe watching a huge pileated woodpecker, the first time my son or my husband had ever seen one. And each spring brought the sweet song of a wood thrush, Henry David Thoreau's favorite singer of all, and a bird that absolutely requires contiguous forest. I'd like to share a couple of comments from other locals who signed our petition. Okay, the first is, I grew up hiking there. I found fossils in a rock by one of the ponds once. Still one of my favorite hiking memories. I really hope Madison is able to preserve the forest. Next, I grew up playing in Drew Forest and lived across the street. It was a haven of nature and deserves to be preserved. Next, I love walking there, and it's already sad how much of it is already someone's lawn. Fourth, Madison is a glorious place to live and raise children and retire as an old lady like me who walks her dog almost every day in the Drew Forest. For all the reasons in the petition, I can add the spiritual effect of spending time with the plants, ducks and their offspring, great blue herons, kingfishers, turtles, frogs, toads, foxy loxy, with myriad plants and ancient trees. We must preserve the whole place, and if we can assist with maintenance too, hallelujah. Last, I knew these woods in the 1980s and need to have my grandkids know these woods in the 2080s. Now, I am not saying that the Drew Woods must be saved because local people have loved them and benefited from them for many years, or because future generations could love them for many years to come, although there is that. The most important reason, of course, is to protect the environmental benefits the forest provides to the area in general, especially the large trees that directly impact the well-being of people, not to mention other animals. I am really grateful that the people of Madison are showing that they appreciate the Drew Forest, and that the government of Madison, all of you up there, have unanimously passed a resolution and have set out to save the Drew Forest Preserve. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. And now we'll bring up Chris Holland.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris Holland, 11 Locust Street, Madison. I was originally just going to come on tonight just to listen to the comments, but I just wanted to just go over a few things as far as what or who I'm representing. Obviously, from the Madison Basketball Association, I'm one of the trustees and also a member of the Recreation Advisory Committee. And also, we submitted a petition that was noted at the last meeting of 1,185 signatures in support of Ordinance 29. The reason I'm calling is that I need to get some feedback back to the Madison Basketball Association and the Recreation Advisory Committee to find out specifically why Ordinance 29 was pulled and what the next steps are. And just as far as the petition to not support the basketball court at the pool, just on that note, the drawing for that is not correct. It needs to be flipped 90 degrees if the current location is correct. So that's just something that if there's many people on this call, they should note that it's not a correct drawing of the current location of the proposed site. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And sorry we weren't able to connect today, but we'll touch base hopefully tomorrow. And as mentioned, we need to go through a process to make sure that the, as you just even pointed out there, the incorrect drawing. So as with a project of this magnitude, that obviously it was planned because it could have it could and would have a mutual benefit to Borough of Madison. We need to do it right. So we will have a full process of discussing and, what are the pluses and minuses of this site versus other sites and so on. So we'll get those conversations going very quickly. And Lydia Chambers, welcome, Lydia.
Hello, thank you, Mayor. This is Lydia Chambers. I live at 87 Millbrook Drive in New Vernon, and I'm going to read a couple of the comments from the petition that were written by alumni of Drew. First, the Drew Forest is an essential component to the identity of a Drew student. My undergraduate career at Drew would not have been nearly the same without the Drew Forest. Let's save the forest. Next, the campus. This is from a class of 2019. The campus in the forest was a deciding factor for me to attend Drew, and I maintain that going to Drew was the best decision I ever made. If you take away the forest, okay, sorry, my notes just disappeared. I attended Drew University 2014 to 2015. During my time there, the forest was my haven. Wandering its paths was the single most soothing activity I had on campus. And without access to this contiguous woodland and the healing that natural spaces provides, I likely would have fallen into deeper depression. Please, for the good of all your students, do not sell this land. Next, I loved the forest during my time at Drew. I often sought out peace and quiet within the forest. Next, walking in the forest meant so much to me during my time at Drew. Natural spaces are vital to our mental and physical well-being and must be preserved and valued. Next and last, the thought of losing the forest to development is unimaginable and would jeopardize the future of Drew University, not to mention create environmental devastation that can never be restored. The forest was one of the reasons I chose to attend Drew University. I oppose the sale of this property. It should be preserved for future generations. So next, you've heard a little bit about what we've been doing as the Friends of Drew Forest. In addition to collecting signatures on change.org, we've been tabling at the farmers market, and we have where we connected with dozens of people from Madison and surrounding areas. They were enthusiastic in their support for our work for preservation of the entire 53 acres. We're kicking off neighborhood canvassing campaign this week. We're lining up volunteers in each neighborhood to deliver our educational flyer to every home, starting with homes closest to Drew and working our way out. We have led a number of tours of the forest, as you've heard from Judy, and anyone interested, please, you can learn how to sign up by visiting our website, friendsofthedrewforest.org. In addition to our educational flyer, we have printed large format posters for events and small posters that we are offering to stores in town. We have been working on 2 videos and are happy to report that our 1-minute video tour of the forest has just been completed and is being posted on social media today. Our website is looking great and has been fleshed out to link folks to our petition and to our donation page, as well as offering action toolkits that supporters can use to share with friends and neighbors to help raise awareness.
One minute, Lydia.
Okay, last thing I'd like to mention is that we continue our networking process. We have been able to reach nearly every class of alumni, several trustees and ex-trustees, as well as VIPs in the state. There's a lot of interest and support we are tapping into. So the Friends continue to be grateful for the hard work and dedication that Mayor Conley and the council that you are doing and the administration in Madison and towards this win-win preservation of the entire Drew Forest. So we thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Lydia. And anyone else wishing to speak, please raise your hand now before I close this part of the meeting. Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting. Just a few comments. All right, it looks like Kate Timmons, I think you made it just under the wire, but please don't hold to the last minute. We will bring you on board. I didn't quite close this part of the meeting, so.
Hello, thank you for taking me right under the wire. My name is Katie Timmons and I live at 84 Prospect Street. And I want to say one thing quickly. The 3 people who live here in our home are opposed to the courts at the Madison Community Pool. I think that Mr. Holland, who just spoke and said that the drawing that was shared with people in the community, that it was incorrect, is part of the problem. There's been very little communication about this project, and we 3 people here in my home oppose it until there can be more information. We fully support more recreational facilities for the town. We partake in them all the time. but not at the community pool. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Katie. Yep. Anyone else wishing to speak, please raise your hand now, or as my mother would say, forever hold your peace. Okay, now I do now close this part of the meeting. For Lydia, thank you for your leadership and all those who are involved with the Friends of the Drew Forest. It seems to be a daunting task to save such a large piece of property in North Jersey, but it is with partnerships and dedication and hard work that will make that happen. So we appreciate everything you do. And I think what your mission statement where on your website, which is very clear that saving the forest and saving Drew University are not mutually exclusive goals. And that's the goal of this council and myself and the borough, to work with Drew University, who, as I have pointed out a couple of times recently, was founded before Madison was incorporated. So been part of our community for so long. So we will work with them to stabilize the university. But what truly makes it such a great place, it is the university in the forest. And we'll be working hard. And I've got meetings starting, direct meetings with Drew. We've had conversations, but starting tomorrow, direct meetings, and we will work hard and get those volunteers working, and let's make this a reality. And now move on to our introduction of ordinances, which there are none today. So consent agenda resolutions. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Maureen, you're muted there. Go ahead. Okay.
Mayor, I move resolution 211-2021 to 219-2021.
Second.
Any discussion or any that need to be pulled? Austri?
Yeah, I'd just like to pull R 217 so I can give some background information.
All right, we will do 217 separately. Any others? Okay, so the motion is for consent is all except for 217. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen? And Ms. Ehrlich?
Okay, resolution 217-2021, resolution of the Borough of Madison authorizing Morris County Trail Construction Grant application. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Around 2018, we began discussing improvement of the trails at Memorial Park off Rosedale. And we began discussing the grant process with the county to get grant money. But first we had to go to the New Jersey DEP for permitting, which the council, first the Open Space Committee recommended and approved, the council approved. And that was accomplished this winter. And so we have the DEP permitting, and now it's time to go ask for the grant from the county to improve. We have about 4 phases of this trail project. We worked with Tom Salaki, former chair of the Parks and the Parks Committee, to create the 4 phases that we will do. And the first phase is this grant request, and it will be a 20% match by our own open space money if we get it from the county.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Very helpful on the clarification or the background on that. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
All right, there is no unfinished business. Approval of vouchers. Will the clerk please read the voucher totals?
For the current fund, $4,141,387.22. For the general capital fund, $17,464.74. For the electric operating fund, $408,411.65. For the water operating fund, $61,564.82. For the trust, $35,692.85. The total is $4,707,475.78.
I have a motion, please.
Mayor, I move approval of the vouchers.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes,
And there is no new business. Rachel,
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. Keep
Good night.
cool. Be well.
Thank you.